Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Thank you for tuning in and welcome to This Just In. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. In these segments, I'll bring the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. As always, we're broadcasting from the This Just In studios on the Business Radio X network, as well as the Healthcare Now radio network. For this episode, my 250th episode, we have a longtime friend joining us, who's also a very successful digital health entrepreneur named Mark Dorner, founder and CEO of PreciseMDX. Welcome to the show, my good friend.
Hey, Justin, how's it going?
Phenomenal. You've been a good friend for a long time. I could not be more excited for this show, and also my 250th episode over the past, I think it's almost 8 years now, or just crossed over 8 years. So welcome, my friend.
That's impressive. I'm really excited after 250 episodes, you finally reached out to have me on one.
Oh, I know. I set myself up for that one. Exactly. Well, timing is everything, because when we came across, we kind of reconnected earlier in the year at a conference. And when you told me what you were doing and why you're doing it, it made a lot of sense. I got excited for you. You're obviously one of the smartest guys I know, and what you're tackling and how you're helping this corner of healthcare is very cool. So I'm glad we were able to make it happen. But before we dive in too far, my audience has not heard your voice before. So where'd you grow up, your background, train, all that good stuff?
So, I'm pretty old, but I'll try to keep it short. I'm from New York originally. In my early teens, I actually moved to Israel. And, I feel like my training came from two places. I served in a military elite technology unit for 5 years in Israel and really got good training in system analysis and software engineering. But after I got out of the military, I'd started a company and sold it. And then I'd moved to Europe doing ERP CRM consulting and running international for a large firm. And I feel like that was the second part of my training, working with these large top 10 banks, telecommunication companies, manufacturers, and other leading industries, and really getting to gain from their experience over hundreds of years, some of them in business. And I felt like that was the second half of my training. And I really feel like that really set me on my path. As far as it comes to healthcare, back in '98, I moved back to the United States to join a startup called Relay Health, where I was chief architect, and I met Justin Barnes, who's awesome.
Yes.
And that was really my start on the, McKesson later acquired that company, but that was my start on the enterprise healthcare technology journey.
Yeah, that's Mark and I met up. I was leading sales and growth for, at the time it was Helix, renamed it Relay Health. But we had a great time there. That was a great run. I actually say I got my MBA from that experience. I mean, that was day one in the kitchen, on Soft's kitchen table in Dunwoody, Georgia, going through the blueprints and saying, hey, we're going to do this thing. 3 of us peeled off from actually McKesson to do, actually 4 of us eventually peeled off from McKesson to do that deal. 3 initially, 1 joined us later. But I learned so much from starting a company, again, from, the first dollar in to all the way to, later on a sale, but just building out a team and all of sales, marketing, growth, customer success, account management. There's just so many components that I learned, and I learned on the fly, and I got to work with phenomenal people like you. And then you and I stayed friends forever. And it was great that, various touch points, wanted to always do something again, when the time arose. And I know that's, I'm sure that'll be out there too, but, you and I have a great rapport. So again, very looking forward to this show. But you mentioned Relay, but where did your passion for healthcare come from? How did Relay, Helix Relay Health become kind of the thing for you?
So, in the start of my career, I realized like 2 things. I genuinely like helping people, and I like fixing things. And because I know technology, I use technology to fix things. And then when I was at Relay, I encountered kind of healthcare for the first time on that side of it, not as a consumer. And I was like, there's a lot of opportunity to fix things here. And just by nature of fixing things in healthcare, you're helping people. So that's kind of where my passion comes from. I like to use technology. I like to see complex, workflows and systems and see how I can make them more efficient. And I like doing it in healthcare because the outcome is you're making people healthier, you're saving them money. It's all good. I had considered at one point big tobacco, but I felt like healthcare was better.
That's great. No, actually, ironically, I had big tobacco knock on my door about 3.5 years ago, actually 3 years ago. I did not take it. They wanted to leverage my brand in healthcare, and that was like a death nail. It's like, absolutely not. But anyhow, it's kind of ironic you brought that up. So, you've helped, a lot of, health IT and health IT services companies through the years. How do you choose where to focus? I mean, when you see a company, you see a strategy, what do you look for?
So in general, I prefer product companies over service companies because it's more scalable and you have more impact. And I feel like I'm very opportunistic. So I'll encounter a challenge and be like, oh, that's not working well. Is it a big problem or is it a small problem? Because if it's a small problem, the impact's not large. But if it's a big problem, you're like, let's go and fix it. And then that's the nucleus of how things get started. And I've had a lot of companies throughout my career, and they've all started in the same way. Either someone has come to me with a problem where I observed one and then kind of thought about how I would fix it. And, is it a large enough impact? And then you get into the financial side. Does this make sense as a business? Is it something I can do? Is it my strength? And so on.
That's awesome. And again, I love this. Is why I love doing this show, because I focus a lot on healthcare. I think 80% of my shows, or 85%, 90% now, are probably healthcare and healthcare IT focused. But I have entrepreneurs, and I also want to inspire entrepreneurs. So that's a great best practice right there. Is people think about, oh, I got an idea, or I can create a widget, but does your widget solve a large enough problem to build a company around? And most of the times it doesn't. And so you just got to, have that as a lens that you see everything through. It's not an ego. We're not trying to, put it, tell about it's not a good idea, but you got to look. It's not just about the idea. It's like, how can I execute this, and can I execute this at scale to build a company around, and also can I build a profitable company around this? And those are real important tenets to think about early on, and do your product market research. Again, you might solve a small problem. That's perfectly fine, but don't go raise, $20 million to solve a small problem, or go to market and kind of get, smoked out and go, that's not going to work. There's easy ways to sharpshoot, strategies in launching a business. And that's certainly one of them you want to look through. So that's a very good point.
And you have to make sure you're solving a large enough problem that causes enough pain that it'll make your life easier. Like you don't want to, back in Relay, I feel like we were before our time. Like we were doing in the late 90s, like online web visits, interactions with patients. Like nowadays it's a no-brainer, but back then it was like very, very groundbreaking.
Yeah, we created the very first e-visit, the very first reimbursed e-visit. So
but it was a real uphill battle. Now you think about remote telehealth and all of that. Everybody's like, of course, we do that all the time. But back then it was like, I can talk to my doctor like electronically. I don't have to be there in person. Is that even going to work? So I know that was impactful and it's important. But maybe because I'm lazy, I don't like to take on like the large mountain to climb, but I like to kind of solve easier problems.
No, completely get it. So great, way to lead me in my next question. What's the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur, in your opinion?
So I think in general, the hardest thing is there's a lot of chaos in the beginning, and you have to have a very flexible mindset and constantly kind of reevaluate and make quick decisions. Because when you start as an entrepreneur, you're starting something new, and you have a theory, and as you go along, you either prove or disprove it, and you have to constantly adjust and kind of reinvent until you get to a size where you're established. For me personally, I'm very risk adverse for an entrepreneur. So I don't think I'm calculated. I'm an engineer. I don't like risk. So, I've developed a flexible mindset, but it's challenging.
No, actually, that's a very good point. I mean, you do have to know, I call it stretching, know when to stretch, and when it's worth it, and when you don't need to, when you don't need to take on unnecessary risk. And that's, I've worked with the same attorney, who I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want anybody trying to poach him, but I've had him for 20 years as my partner in various ventures. And he's awesome because he knows he can help me calculate the risk. I don't know every risk out there and can quantify it myself, but between both of us, and you get a smart team around it, then you can certainly, make the best decisions. And he tells me, you can step there, don't step there, do this, don't do that. And that way I kind of can stretch myself. I can push my limits a little bit without falling off or, going boom. So.
And I think military background helps you quickly evaluate situations and make a decision, because it's very important to make decisions.
Yes.
You don't want to sit on things like indecision is the worst. It's better to make a bad decision than no decision, which So I think the military, teaches you to weigh things in certain circumstances where, it's like life or death. And then when it comes to business, you're like, oh, that's not so bad. It's not life or death. No one's going to die. I'll make a decision. We'll move forward. If I made a mistake, I'll correct it.
Yep. Very true. Analysis paralysis. I've always, kept a very close eye on that inside my organizations. You and I worked together actually a couple of times already. And that's one of the things I loved about you. You have a military background. I have a military background. It allows us to, again, make decisions. This also goes back to a good best practice for everybody, because we're actually going to dive into some best practices here coming up in a moment. But that also is, analysis paralysis kills a lot of organizations. You've got to make the best decision that you can with the information that you have at that moment. And that's a critical leadership component. So if you can't do that, you may want to balance out your leadership organization and team with people who can, because you got to execute. As I say, ideas are easy and execution is everything. And execution is 90% of success is execution. It's not about the idea. It's not about the widget. It's about how do you get it to market? How do you build the team around it? And how do you set your goals and achieve your goals and then set new goals and just execute all the way along? That's success long-term as an entrepreneur in a business. So at least how I've been able to do it. And I know how you've been able to do it. But yeah, just making a decision, moving forward. And then, correct. If you made a bad one, that's fine. Correct yourself. I mean, how many stories and books are written about someone, I made 10 bad decisions. I made 100 bad decisions, but I made that finally, the 101st good decision or that first great decision, and you skyrocketed. And so,
you got to learn from your mistakes, learn from those experiences, and then try not to have more of them.
So true. For those that may have joined us a little late today, my special guest is Mark Dorner, founder and CEO of PreciseMDX. So let's dive in a little bit. We're going to pull out the crystal ball. You have a great perspective on healthcare, and you're now looking at some new areas of healthcare, which is very, very cool. But what do you see as some of the major themes or trends this year or over the next year in healthcare and or digital health?
So it's interesting. I've been in enterprise healthcare for about 25 years in kind of all aspects of it. Really, the pandemic of the last 2 years has definitely accelerated certain areas of healthcare when it deals with telehealth, remote patient care. But what it's done is it has created this appetite for patients and increased consumerism in healthcare. And that's not something that's going to go back. That's something that's going to continue. And, I think, throughout the years, everyone said, oh, the patient's the customer, the patient's the customer. But now that, the pandemic's been a catalyst to make that happen right now. And that trend's going to continue, and you're going to see more patient-centric approaches to everything across healthcare. And that's also combined with the fact that patients are getting these larger and larger deductible plans, taking on more responsibility and getting more involved in their health financially and just awareness-wise.
Absolutely. So I mean, how are you addressing that? And then how would you recommend someone address those trends?
I would say, look at, patients are people, and they use technology not just in healthcare. So I would say, look at what they're doing outside healthcare and see if it makes sense. A great example is, when I order a pizza, let's say from Domino's, they have good pizza. They're not a sponsor of the show.
No.
When I order from Domino's, I have control and visibility. I make my order. I know how much it costs. I know that the order was placed. I know who's making my pizza. They actually tell you the name on their tracker. I know who's looking at the pizza to make sure they made it the right way. I know who's delivering it. I know when it's outside. I know I need to get it. So that's a great experience for me as a consumer. I have full visibility and control. I know everything related to the pricing. I don't have to call anybody. It's very efficient, and everyone's happy. I as a consumer am happy. Domino's is happy because I'm not calling them to ask where my pizza is or if it's on its way. So that's a great example of consumerism. Then you look at healthcare, and you're like, let's say I go get a lab, laboratories, 70% of clinical decision making is based on laboratories. You go to your doctor, something hurts, they're like, let me run some tests, right? They take some blood, take some specimen, and then you wait. You don't know. You ask them, how much does it cost? The doc's like, I don't know. I'm not the lab. I'm the doctor. I don't bill for it. But you need it. It's important. I'm like, okay, it's important. My doctor said I'm going to get it done. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know how long it's going to take. If I'm patient, I wait a few days. If not, I call my doctor saying, hey, where's my lab? The doctor's like, I'm not the lab, but usually takes this much time. So it's a very bad experience. I don't have the visibility. I don't know what's going on. I'm annoying people. So, so you look at, what goes on in people's lives around them with social media and how they interact with commerce and retail. And then you look at healthcare and you say, how can I make this something that they expect, but they're also used to? So you're not really retraining the patient. So if you allow them to track their healthcare and give them visibility, they're like, oh, it's just like when I order a pizza, it feels comfortable for them and it gives them a positive experience. And they're your customer, so you want them to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, you see this with, in transportation and Delta. Delta, we do everything through the app, full transparency on pricing, everything down to the seat and my meal and everything can be, appified or always done electronically. And I love that experience. And now I'm used to that experience. Same thing with Uber. We know our driver's first name and last, the letter of last, the first letter of their last name. And when they're going to get there, they track it. Everything's, again, that goes back to consumers. And obviously we want that because we're getting it and we love it. So, have that experience because I just had my labs done, my annual physical a couple weeks ago. And I had two bad experiences with people trying to do this. I don't want to say LabCorp, but the last two times, first time I went in there a year ago, they didn't, I filled out all my paperwork ahead of time. I was like, oh, this is really cool. They're using technology. This is excellent. I get in there and there's this tablet. So they said, type in your name. Like, I don't want to touch anything in that doctor's office. I'm sorry, but I'm just there for my annual physical or in that lab office. I just get my blood draw from, again, I'm not sick. I'm fine. I don't want to touch anything. Sure enough, I have touched this touchpad to check in. My information was not there. I had to rekey in on this disgusting pad, all my health history, all my information. I was livid. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I got there a little bit early, but it took me 15 minutes to do that. That didn't make me very happy. And then this last time, and because I'm challenging, I like to call these people out because I'm challenging them to step up. I've always done that. I'll point the finger at me, my industry. I always challenge the EHR industry. We got to step up. We have to do things better. We have to make better workflows, all this kind of stuff. But in this lab industry, these guys have got to step up. So my last one, really quickly, literally, they said, all right, when you get there, text us and we'll tell you when to come in so you can sit in the comfort of your own car. I'm like, awesome. That's excellent. Great customer service and great consumerism strategy. I'm sitting there, get there, check in, then everything electronically online again. And I text and they said, the text responds back, great. We'll tell you when to come in. You're here, you're checked in. We'll tell you when to come in. I waited about 6-7 minutes or so. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to sit in my car anymore. And it's already past my appointment time. I'm just going to walk in just to be safe. So I walk in and she's like, oh, Mr. Barnes, we've been waiting for you. I'm like, well, you're supposed to text me. Oh, we did. I didn't get a text back. So go through my blood draw. Actually, I was very unhappy with the office, but I don't want to go down that path. But anyway, it was not very clean and it was weird. Bad experience there. But do my blood draw, get back out to my car. Like 10 minutes later, ding, I get my text. You ready for your blood draw? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You're delayed 30 minutes. I would have been sitting in my car for 36 minutes or 37 minutes waiting for that text to come in. Thankfully, I went in there on my own. So yeah, there's a lot of room for that. That's actually a lab using technology. Never mind one that actually has one that, it works well. So I completely agree with you. Long story, but I completely agree with you.
They had good intentions. They were trying to use technology to give you a good experience. They just failed, but the intentions were there.
Right.
It's funny you talk about the kiosks at the offices, and because we're in healthcare, we know more than people. So people going to that lab are probably, a lot of them are sick.
Yeah.
And you're like, so I don't want to touch the kiosk, and I have my phone. Why can't I just use my phone? Why do I need to use your kiosk? I mean, and as a consumer, you use your phone for everything.
Correct.
So like, when I was in healthcare 20 years ago, people talk about, I don't have internet in the physician office, or people don't have phones. That's not today. Everybody has a phone. Everybody uses it for everything. Whether you're a frequent flyer or it's your first time flying, use the Delta app. It's just more convenient. But it's amazing when you walk into these laboratories and physician offices and you hear fax machines, in the background, and you're like, why is there paper going from one place to another? It's just,
absolutely,
it's a little mind-boggling. So yeah.
No, completely agree. So what are a few, kind of rounding out my trifecta here of questions on thought leadership and best practices? What are a few best practices or strategies that you can share to help, others in this listening today navigate those trends?
I mean, best practices is interesting because healthcare is such a wide place.
Yes.
When we're talking about consumerism, though, because that's kind of where we're focused, let the patient have a voice. So give them the information they need to have control of their healthcare from a financial and visibility perspective. Let them understand, what they're paying for and how much they're paying, and be part of the journey. And I think if you focus on that, no matter where you are in the healthcare, you're going to be successful because they're your customer.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'd focus on. Just remember the patient's a customer, and what would be the best experience for them? How do you elevate their experience? What would you want as a healthcare consumer as well, right? Just like you said, I didn't like this. I didn't like this. This could have been better. This could have been better. And we do that a lot. We talk with, we're all patients, but we talk to our customers. Now we work a lot with laboratories, but we also have worked a lot with physician offices, and just say, what makes your day better? What makes your day worse? What are useless things that happen? My wife's a physician. She's a podiatrist, and they use paper. And I was like, why? Why do you use paper? Like, oh, it's in the folder. It's nice and organized. We like it. And I was like, really? And the paper never gets
kills.
lost. You never make mistakes. You never get calls from wherever you're sending the paper to asking about stuff. Like, oh, we do. And I was like, oh, now that you mentioned it, yeah, it's a pain. But we didn't really think about it because it's not 100% of our day. It's 5% or 10%. Yeah, but your day's so full. Wouldn't you like 5 or 10% back to do other things?
Absolutely.
And her staff was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's just kind of focusing on that.
Well, paper kills. I mean, when you and I met up a couple months ago and you just started talking about what you're doing and how you're focusing and where you're working with labs in physician offices and in other organizations, it was just, it's a no-brainer because they're still using faxes. And I come from the world, I'm electronic health records. I mean, basically electronifying healthcare is what I've been doing for 25 years. And when you told me, Justin, they're still faxing. Like, paper is major in labs and paper requisition forms, and paper kills. Literally, it kills people. Like, what are you doing? How can you still be on paper? How can a lab test, all this stuff, be on paper?
Definitely kills trees, but it also kills people. Kills people. I walked into a laboratory, they're good sized laboratory, and I hear this like dot matrix printer printing in the background. And I haven't heard one of those in like 30 years. And I was like, what? And it's like, and I was like, how do you find parts for it? Like, what do you buy ribbons? Like, what is this ancient technology that I used in the military 30 something years ago that no, we printed, and the doctors like the paper report, and it's not even a real printer. It's like, and I don't know if people who are listening even know what a dot matrix printer is.
Good point.
But it's a very basic.
It shouldn't be in healthcare.
Printer.
Let's just say that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be anywhere. It should be in a museum.
What about, and Colby, a couple minutes left here, about minute 30. How important is interoperability to what you're doing in data exchange? It's what I've worked on a lot in my past. So,
yeah. So as you know, interoperability is a big challenge in healthcare because it's big and there's so many systems and they need to talk to each other. And that's why a lot of times people fall back on paper, because paper is simple and easy. But really it's key. It's the way to connect the digital journey between patients and providers and laboratories and other care providers. It's really interoperability, and you really have to come up with creative ways of getting around that, because it's very hard to integrate systems. A lot of disparate systems. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here. All about how many electronic medical record systems are out there and hospital systems, and some are more responsive than others, but it is the key to enabling everything.
Yeah, I did a lot of work on the CARES Act and through the years, creating standards and enabling data exchange between these systems, large and small. It's critical we need it as patients, we need it as consumers, we deserve it as a healthcare system, because we pay this $4 trillion plus tab every single year. That's growing and expected to double in like the next 10 years, something insane. I mean, how can it go from $4 to $8 trillion? And I think it's the next 10 years. It's pretty much insane. So we've got to figure out ways to scale And data exchange and interoperability is key for it. And also, it's bottom line, it saves lives. So, and I want to save my life, to be honest. So,
yeah. And we want to help people, and by moving things to be electronic, you're helping people. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of studies on patient safety and handwriting and paper versus electronic. So you're literally saving people.
Yep. No, very true. Well, we're about to run out of time here, but I will certainly have you back. I can't believe it's taken you 8 years to join my show, but at least we finally made the time for it to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe it's taken you 8 years to invite me on your show, but that's okay.
I love it. All right, my brother. Well, first of all, thank you very much. Congratulations on all your new work and what you're doing with your company, which you and your guys are building. I know it's warranted. I'm going to have you back so you can talk specifically about what you guys do in the lab space. But I really wanted to have you this first time, just talk about, what you see, how you see consumerism fitting, and really just kind of, some of your thought leadership, since the world has not heard it, at least from my platform before. So thank you for taking the time, my friend.
No, I really appreciate it. And thank you for being part of the solution, educating people and improving healthcare.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you to everyone for joining us. It's great to just have you back and be back on air with everyone. If you want to hear us more and join us, you can hear us 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. each day. You also can track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor and use the hashtag #ThisJustinRadio to respond to your comments from the show. If you miss any of this episode or want to hear more, all my shows are posted to Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and tune in. And you can check out some of our recent updates on justinbarnes.com. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.